Hey, everybody, welcome to Church History for Chumps. My name is John Simon, and I'm here with Taylor, the Terrible Treadway.
Ooh, is that my vampire name?
I think it's like it's kind of like your dictator name, like Ivan the Terrible, you
Yeah,
know?
Taylor the Terrible.
That's what the history
Ooh.
books will know you as, which I don't know, maybe not great. I
One
don't
of
know.
Shout out Patrick if you ever listen. He was in my church history class with me and he would call me Taylor the Great. And I
Oh, I
was
thought you
like,
were going to say he called you terrible on several occasions.
no, no,
Hey, you
no.
know what I
I,
decided,
I
Taylor?
what?
I think we're going to change our whole approach to this podcasting thing. And I'd like to become just a fan page / appreciation page for Gavin Ortlund, because I think he's my new favorite guy.
Church history for
For
Gavin
Gavin
Ortlund.
Ortlund. Yeah, exactly. Instead of
Okay.
CH4C, we're
Why don't
CH4BO.
why don't you tell the listeners who Gavin is and explain his whole family?
Oh gosh. Well, so Ray Ortlund, he's kind of, I don't know, he was kind of in like he always seemed like the old chill grandpa of like the young restless reformed movement, where
He was.
he didn't really have a lot of like angry spicy takes. He wasn't gonna, punch a liberal in the jaw. He just had
Yeah.
like a very even cadence. But you know what? He also happens to just navigate all of the waves of conflict that ripped through that entire group of
Right.
people.
Right.
And
Ray was the he was reformed before it was cool.
yeah.
So yeah. So that was
And
it.
so he's
Yes.
got two sons,
Oh, I
Dane
think
and
it's
Gavin.
dude, I
I
think
get them
it's
mixed up all the
more.
time. Gavin wrote Gentle and Lowly, which I think is a very, very good book. But Gavin does a podcast. I think it's called Truth Unites. I hope that's right. But dude, I started listening to it when we did our episode on Marian apparitions, because I thought, man, this guy's got a really he's very well informed, but he's also just very gentle and very like considerate when he speaks, which is really that's kind of the John Simon flavor. I love nuance. Save your spicy takes for some other podcast. I like someone who could speak with some grace. And I don't know. I just listened to an episode where he talked about the idea of apostolic succession, but he did a really good job trying to represent the like Catholics and Orthodox people fairly, but then also saying basically, I don't think that's true, but with all due respect. And I was like, gosh dang, dude, this guy's smart. He's considerate. I don't know. I like him a lot. So Gavin, if you're ever listening, I don't think you will be. Hit us up, dog.
Gavin has two brothers, by the way. So
Who's the other brother?
Ray had three sons that are all in like Christian academia.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, so there's Eric.
Okay.
And then there's Dane.
Yeah, I knew Dane.
So,
I knew Dane. Yeah.
yeah, so then there's Eric, and Eric is less popular, so to speak, but he is a lecturer in Old Testament in Biblical Hebrew at Oak Hill College in London.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh, in London? Gosh, dang.
Hoity-toity.
Cool. Hoity-toity indeed.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember. I know they're Reformed, but like, what flavor of Reformed?
One
is
of them's
he?
a Baptist. One of them became a Baptist.
Oh,
I think is it Gavin
interesting.
became a Baptist?
I need to check that out. I don't. He refers to himself as Reformed, and usually Reformed Baptists will never call themselves Reformed without saying Baptist.
No, it's
You
Gavin.
don't think so?
Gavin's published a bunch with
Oh, son of a gun.
yeah, with
He
Crossway.
is. Oh,
Well, I
that
guess you
just
don't have
breaks
to be
my heart,
Baptist.
dude. He
Well,
doesn't have
you're
an
Baptist. You are Baptist. How many times do we have to go over this?
Leave me alone.
Okay, listeners, John Simon's still processing the fact that he's a Baptist. It's okay.
Ask me if I would like to baptize my infant children, Taylor.
I'm too
Yes,
scared.
I would. Yes, I would.
Oh my gosh.
I would. But you know what? Gavin's still pretty cool. So I think you guys should listen to him.
Baptist
And
I've
when you
ever
listen
heard of.
to him, comment on his Spotify episodes and be like, yo, you should collab with the Chumpcast.
That's
that'd
right.
Be cool.
Well, so if you basically just type in Ortlund books, dear listeners, you can get like a ton of everything. So that'll keep you busy for a while.
Yeah,
if anyone wants book recommendations. Speaking, we were talking before we hit record, and Gavin wrote Finding the Right Hills to Die Upon.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And it's kind of you know, if are you guys familiar with you guys as if
Like, are they gonna respond? We're not live, brother. Like, it's
are
just me
fine,
here.
fine. Are you familiar with Albert Mohler's theological triage?
Absolutely. I'm a big
Yes,
fan of that.
so Ortlund sort of takes that and then is a little more practical and applies it more. And guys, it's the idea that we don't have to. It says this is a great intro for the schism,
It
actually.
is. Oh my gosh, you're absolutely right. You're
Guys,
absolutely right.
we don't have to go to war and fight with every other Christian on the planet over the
Mhm.
smallest details. And I'm not going to name any names, but there's a certain sect of dispensational Baptists, Calvinistic dispensational Baptists, and
Alright.
they will fight over everything.
Yeah.
And it's like everything is a heresy. Everything's a Christological heresy now, is what I've been seeing on the internet. So, man,
Yeah.
I
It
appreciate conviction in things, and
yeah.
obviously, like, I think John Simon and I are, like, pretty lined up in most things. He doesn't have kids to baptize yet, guys, so
Okay, shut your mouth.
he hasn't had to make this decision, this horrible decision, he hasn't.
That's a good
But
decision.
point is, like, obviously, we're gonna think, like, where we land, where our little fence post is probably correct, like, how big our field is, like,
Of
what we're
course.
comfortable with.
Mhm.
So I would just recommend you guys adopt our theological views, and,
Yes.
you're just gonna be fine. Everyone's gonna be
And
fine.
when you realize how grateful you are to us for having basically spoon-fed your whole
Right,
theological background, then
right.
you maybe go into Buy Me
Mhm,
a Coffee
mhm.
and set up a little monthly subscription, and before you know it,
That's
we're making even more content. Wasn't that a
that's
good
right.
segue, Taylor?
That was a great segue.
Make
So,
sure you
yes,
hit follow on Spotify, because once we get to 1,000, we'll do like a little I don't know,
Discord
Steam
party, baby.
Discord party, and we're like 20 away or something. So that's
Yeah, we'll
crazy.
hit it soon, so we'll
Yeah.
plan that out, and that'll be a lot of fun.
You know what the
Comment
irony
on the
is
what were
about
you yeah.
me really wanting to baptize our not yet existent infant children is that I think we've talked about this before, but my wife is she's Mexican, and her family is like Mexican, but the kind of like okay,
Yeah, they rejected Catholicism.
if you live in a place with a lot of Mexicans around, you know, there's two types of Mexican Christians. There's the Catholics, and then there's those who are really not Catholic. And my wife's family is really not Catholic. So even if I tell them that the people who came up with the idea of infant baptism in the Reformed tradition would have rather jumped into a vat of acid than be called Catholic, they would still be like, why are you doing this Catholic thing?
That's
And
right.
it's like, no,
I
gosh
love it.
dang it. So I've got some
I love it.
hurdles. I've got some hurdles. Also,
The,
I'm not going to a Reformed church right now, so that's a whole
no, you're
other
not. You're
issue.
going to a Southern Baptist church, like
I
a good
know.
Southern Baptist.
Even the freaking pastor's got an accent, bro. That's how Southern Baptist my church is.
Amen.
And I love
Shout
him,
out Pastor
honestly.
David.
Shout out. Yeah.
Yeah, read Finding the Right Hills to Die On. I think that'll
Yeah.
help all of you.
Mhm.
Yes. Oh, and then
Yeah.
check out the Spotify comments section. We have so much.
Yeah.
LM talked about we should produce a video game, Island to Goji Bar.
Isn't
And
that that game that you love to play so much, Taylor?
yep, that's the one.
It's a super good game.
Jackson kind of had my view on the last episode, which was this is rough.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
shout out
Big stuff.
Jacob Thickpin, Caleb Sanders,
Yeah.
Caliber, and Mike Duell, the long lost cousin of
Yeah,
Tommy
dude.
Duell.
There was also a dude who in the YouTube in one of the comment sections, I think he was roasting me about something, but then he said to shout out Denmark. So you know what? Shout out Denmark.
Shout out Denmark.
Thanks, Denmark. Also shout out Singapore. I know it's been a little while since we've shouted out Singapore, but we still love you guys. And for a while we were kind of like we were ranked as far as like the religion and spirituality podcasts in Singapore. Lately it's just Trinidad and Tobago. So if you're listening from there, konnichiwa.
Did well, what? I haven't hit up the YouTube comments in a while. Was somebody debating with you?
It was like lighthearted. Someone was giving me a hard time about something I said. It wasn't like
Oh,
this and
okay.
that. I will also say maybe this is a testament to the beauty and the unity that is within the Chump Nation. But we've really never gotten, like, flamed before. Like, we've been doing this show. Taylor's been with us for almost a year. Me and Tommy have been doing it for almost 3 years. We have not gotten, like, a really angry. We got a couple of Anabaptists who were, like, not great, which is probably the hardest they go because 'cause they're usually pacifist. We've gotten one ortho bro, I think, who was like, "You guys should really read some other sources about this," and to be fair, maybe.
He was
Um,
probably right.
he might have been, honestly. Yeah, great point. Like, but yeah, I love that. I love that we don't get beat up, but one day it'll happen, and I'll just bring it up with my therapist, I think. All right. Tay, you ready, big dog?
Oh, I
I'm excited.
guess.
I'm really excited.
This is an important episode that I'm
This
surprised
is.
has not been covered on CH4C yet.
Well, dude, my dream was to do a two-parter where we had a guest who was an Orthodox priest, and then we did the episode basically, we ran it back, but with a Catholic priest. Not to have them like fight each other, but just to be like, what's your take on this? Um, so I always saved it, but now it's too late. We got to get into it, and get into it we shall. So I've got a cold open if that's okay.
Oh, hit us. I was just
Okay.
gonna make a joke about where does the spirit proceed from? So
We'll get to that. All right, all right, all right.
take it away, bud.
So here we go. I actually want to start with a personal anecdote. Taylor, did you know a pastor when you lived here in the old Pueblo named Roman Rodriguez?
I've never met Roman Rodriguez in my life.
Okay, all right. Well, I'll start with him. So I once knew a pastor of this church in my city. His name was Roman Rodriguez. He was a good guy. He knew his Bible really well. He's a very scholarly, logical kind of guy, and his church was elder led. And although Pastor Roman was one of the elders, he submitted to an elder rule, which means that the consensus of the elders is how decisions are made. You tracking with me? Okay. The other elders were pretty solid dudes too. And to be fair, none of them really had the gusto that Pastor Roman had, except for one guy. I don't remember his name because everyone called him the Count because he had a thick accent like that character from Sesame Street. I did hear some rumors that sometimes Pastor Roman and the Count would argue about who should really be the pastor of the church, but I wasn't there for those. The other elders, they tried not to get involved in their personal beef because they loved both of them, but even though they really didn't admit it, they all really liked the Count. Now, one of the big issues is that Pastor Roman is an American guy, and the other elders were from Europe, so there are sometimes some weird cultural disagreements. Sometimes they'd argue about what the Bible said and kind of minute details that just seem to be like language squabbles.
Is this a
You,
real
you, you,
story?
you tracking with me, Taylor? Yeah, you're tracking with me. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, but the thing was, the elders really trusted Pastor Roman, and vice versa. They all had responsibilities to disciple the church. They all wanted to teach the word, shepherd the people. So they took their jobs really seriously. And they respected each other because they knew that deep down they were all mutually committed to the same thing, the kingdom of God. So they argued and they bickered and there were some rivalries, but they liked each other. But one day, after a hard elders meeting, Pastor Roman was driving home and he started to think to himself. He said, "You know what? I am the flipping pastor of this church, not them. So why do I keep bending over backwards for these guys?" So at the next staff meeting, Pastor Roman decides to go into the beliefs tab on the church website and rewrite it by himself without consulting the elders. He then goes on to fire the child care provider, and then he talks smack about the Count's small group. And he starts going around the church, reminding everybody, "I'm the guy who's really in charge here." And the other elders didn't like that. And they wrote a letter to the pastor where they said, and I quote, "Pastor Roman, what kind of brotherhood is this? We do not deny that you have primacy amongst the five of us, and yet by not taking counsel with us, by deferring to your own arbitrary pleasure, you have made us slaves of the church rather than sons." And Pastor Roman removed the four elders from the church, causing a massive church split between those faithful to Roman and those faithful to the other four elders. So the elders started a new church, and they claimed that that was the original church, and they disavowed the pastor for his actions. And then a few years later, a bunch of Pastor Roman's youth group kids burned down the other church's office and library. But that's a whole other story. In case you haven't caught on, this is not a real story, but this is a beautiful allegory of the Great Schism of 1054.
Dude, you had me for a sec. I hated it.
I figured I would get you if I asked you, like, "Oh, have you ever heard of Roman Rodriguez?"
Yeah.
No, he's not real. He's not real. So,
Is Roman Rodriguez Pope Leo the Ninth?
he's just the Catholic Church, man. He's just the
Oh,
Catholic
okay.
Church. Yeah,
He's
the
oh,
whole
Roman.
yeah,
Oh,
little
you're so
Easter egg. Yeah.
clever.
So in
Wow.
this, Pastor Roman was Rome, and the other pastor or the other elders were the other five sees, and the count is Constantinople.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I put some
Good job.
put some Easter eggs in that one, man. Yeah.
That's good.
But yeah, so listeners, this is our fourth part of our kind of setting the stage for the Crusades. If you'd like, you can go back and start with our episode on the fall of Rome. And this is kind of the last big thing we're going to get into before we discuss what many consider the beginning of the Crusades, which is Pope Urban's kind of I don't know, sermon series, you could call it. It's kind of like a revival tent, going around from town to town where he basically rallies the troops.
His tent
Um,
revival.
his tent
That
revival.
was
Honestly,
horrifying.
there's some connections there. But this is so we talked about the fall of Rome and kind of the state of the European church. We talked about the state of the Byzantine Empire and the Eastern Church. We talked about the beginnings of Islam and these Islamic empires and how fragmented Islam is, but still a very viable threat. And now we are talking about probably one of the most devastating breakups since, I don't know, Jennifer Aniston, Ben Affleck, Taylor Swift, and Taylor Lautner. I don't know. This is a
Yeah,
devastating
that
breakup.
one was pretty devastating.
That was a heavy one. So yeah, the man, there's a whole lot of places we could start from. Before I get into
I
more,
got
do
a
you want to
good
throw?
quote.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
got
go
a good
for it.
quote for us to start.
I like it. Let's
So,
do it.
um, LM asked at I think it was on at the end of our research episode. Uh, LM was like, "You guys should start putting your sources." And I'm like, "I think that's a really good idea
It is
because
a good idea.
I probably buy a book or two. I shouldn't say this too loudly, less brandy here. I I probably buy a book or two per episode that
Oh
I
my
that
god.
I do. Um, and, you know what's great? Okay, guys, because I know a lot of our listeners are men, and I know a lot of them buy books and sneak them in under the dead of night so their wives can't see. Just get digital. Just get digital. They'll have no idea.
There's no paper trail.
Yes, literally. And then she looks at the bank statement, is like, "What?" Anyway, don't hide things from your wives. It's just a
No,
little
no, no, no,
joke, a little
no, no.
jest. But, okay, one of the best kind of general church histories is going to be, uh, Yaroslav Pelikan's The Christian
Mm,
Tradition series.
okay.
This guy is one of the best modern church historians out there. He is like the GOAT. So I'd highly recommend him. And I have a quote from him. This is taken from volume 2, and its subtitle is The Spirit of Eastern Christendom. And it says this: while the East-West schism stemmed largely from political and ecclesiastical discord, this discord also reflected basic theological differences, whose importances whose importance must be neither exaggerated nor minimized. It may be excessive to say that from the intellectual point of view, the breach between the Latins and the Greeks arose from the fact that each side came to regard as absolute and irreconcilable certain differing representations, differing mental images of the truth. But the documents of the schism do show the depths of the intellectual alienation that had developed between the two sections of Christendom.
Mhm. Yeah.
So basically, guys, there's a lot of much like history. There's a lot of people cover stuff and just make it black and white, and it's really simple. And we say this and we say that, and we're guilty of that too. We're
Mhm.
guilty of it too. But the
We try not
schism
to
is
be. We try not
we
to
do
be.
we really do
Yeah.
try. But The Schism is a mess, and we're gonna try to dive in and bring as much nuance as we possibly can in the remaining half hour-ish that we have. But,
Yeah. Dude, so,
yeah.
I mean, I think you summed it up really well, and, like, for a lot of us, when we think of the Great Schism, our mind goes straight to the Filioque, which we'll get to because that's absolutely relevant, but, um, it should be no surprise, especially as we like to explore kind of the bigger, more complex, nuanced ideas. The schism starts in the early patristic period. Like,
Yes.
the schism starts forever ago because, again, like, what we always and forever have to remember is that the difference between East and Western Rome was never just geography. Like, the Western Romans did everything in Latin. The Eastern Romans did everything in Greek. Like, so even down to the bare bones of, like, the Latins are going to have a more Roman culture inspired influence there, and the Greeks are obviously going to have more of a Hellenistic inspired influence there. So the the West and Eastern Christians were always trying to figure out how to coexist and how to collaborate when their
Mhm.
contexts were consistently different.
Yeah.
And what we
Their
see, I think.
theologians were different.
Yes. If you
Yeah.
ask, because I mean, they literally say, like, if you look at the greats of the patristics, there's the Eastern greats where you'll find, like, the Cappadocian fathers, and then the Western greats where you'll find, like, Ambrose and Augustine and Jerome. So yeah, like, the the Latin and Greek liturgies have different influences. Like, a guy like John Chrysostom, really big in the East, a guy like, again, Augustine, really big in the West, or
Tertullian.
Leo. Yeah,
Tertullian was
Tertullian,
West, right?
very big in the West, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Early too. He was early
yeah,
in the West, yeah.
the rift starts almost immediately. I'm gonna read a really good quote here too, but I think I'm gonna try to sum this because I just thought this was really, really well put. Um so the differences are worth another look, talking about the differences between Tertullian of Carthage, so a Western guy, and then Clement of Alexandria, a Eastern guy, who were both like basically contemporaries. They lived in the same time periods.
Right.
And it essentially says, Tertullian's first language was Latin, Clement's was Greek. Tertullian boldly challenged the pagan cultures of his day with the realities of the Christian faith, while Clement sympathetically sought aid for Christianity from the best that paganism offered.
That's right.
Tertullian coined new words and was eager to construct formulas of faith, which he then expected to end theological debate, while Clement meditated at great length on the truths of the faith and used formulas to stimulate discussion about the ultimate realities of Christianity. Simply put, Tertullian was a lawyer, Clement was a philosopher, and these were both very, like, foundational theologians, kind of building the building blocks of how all of their successors are going to come to understand the Christian faith.
You know, I just made this connection, and if I'm wrong, somebody tell me. So Tertullian was very, as John Simon just said, very anti pagan, and in that sense, anti-government.
Mm,
And you kind of see in the West this evolution of separation of church and state.
mhm,
And as you go farther down, like 1,000 years, that starts to blur, but there is a strong separation of church and state. And so like you can look at Tertullian and see that like sort of in the water already. And
mhm.
then dude, the Byzantine Empire, like the emperor was always the head of the church too.
Yep, yeah. And they
So
outlasted the West by a significant, centuries, like a long time, a really
yeah, and
long
then what and
time.
then what happened?
And then it got bad. All right, I wanna read one more quote because I think this just kinda captures
Who was your
the.
first quote from?
Oh, that was just, that was actually, here, I'll show you guys my book here, Turning Points by Mark Knoll.
Mark
Um,
Knoll is a goat.
Mark Knoll's super solid. Is he Wheaton? Wheaton College, I think?
I can't keep track of where
That doesn't
everybody is,
matter.
dude.
Alright, this is a quote from, Callistos Ware. He's a, uh, recently deceased, Orthodox bishop, American dude too, He's a really great entry point for if you're interested in Orthodox ideas. He's a very, very fascinating guy. But he says, from the start, Greeks and Latins had each approached the Christian mystery in their own way. At the risk of some oversimplification, it can be said that the Latin approach was more practical, the Greek more speculative. Latin thought was influenced by juridical ideas, by the concepts of Roman law, while the Greeks understood theology in the context of worship and in the light of the Holy Liturgy. When thinking about when thinking about the Trinity, Latins started with the unity of the Godhead. Greeks started with the threeness of the persons. When reflecting on the crucifixion, Latins thought primarily of Christ the victim, Greeks of Christ the victor. Latins talked more of redemption, Greeks of deification. So kind of like none of these things are
Mm.
wrong. Like none of these are wrong concepts. Like even today, you'll talk to a Western Christian about sanctification. You'll talk to a Eastern Christian about theosis. They are both the process in which we practically draw closer to God, but they're going to describe them very differently.
Yeah, dude. Okay, guys, here's a little fun thing you could do to throw out. So Athanasius has that super fire quote where he says, "Oh gosh, help me, John Simon. I
Oh
cannot believe
no.
God became man so that man might become God."
Yes.
He's literally just talking about theosis. It's a super fire quote. I
Mhm.
dare you to just take a little icon, of Athanasius, Control V that puppy, or Control C, and then Control V onto Facebook and just type that quote out and just watch all of your Protestant friends.
Freak out.
Yeah. Yeah,
I've
they will. And
I've
they
literally
will.
seen Protestants edit that quote. Like they'll share it, but they'll be like God. They don't like the idea of man becoming
He's just
God. They're
talking
like,
about
"No, that's weird."
substance. I know, dude. They
Exactly.
can't. I
Yeah.
know, dude.
Substance versus essence. Yeah, no, it's huge. And that is like entry point theology for an Orthodox dude, but for it's literally a different language for Western Christians, which is what we're talking about. They're
Mhm.
speaking different languages here.
Yeah, and we still see it to this day. Here's my last little thing, and I'll let you keep going, bro. You're cooking.
Oh, no, you're good, you're
Have
good.
I told you about my Coptic mechanic?
No, dude, that sounds I love that. That's so
Okay,
cool.
so seriously, one of the other benefits of living in the Inland Empire, bro,
Mm,
i.e., shout out, dude, we have so many immigrants from everywhere, and a ton of them are Christian, but they're their own flavor of Christian.
yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
like, my mechanic is a guy named Ramses, and he's a
Mhm.
Coptic guy straight from Egypt. And
That's so cool. I love
bro, you
that.
like walk into his shop, he has iconography of Jesus everywhere, and then he has Coptic literature. And like, I just looked at one of them, and one of them was like the fragrance of Christ. And like,
Where
I
did he
know,
buy that from? Like,
I don't
that's
know.
so
I know
cool.
this guy loves Jesus, but I'm just like, man, you would never catch a Protestant using that word.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Different languages, man. It's really
Mhm.
what it is. Okay, so that's how somewhat like setting the table. That's kinda like the entry level stuff. Now, if you guys have followed us for the past few episodes, you kinda know some important things that are gonna happen. First off, the so Diocletian, Thomas talked about this in his episode last week. Uh, Diocletian is the last big emperor kind of before it starts to get Christian flavored with Constantine and his homies taking over. And one of the big things Diocletian does is he draws a line down the middle, says this is Western Rome, this is Eastern Rome. That was not the beginning of that separation, but it was kind of the most formal recognition of it. Uh, Western Rome, a few centuries later, is going to fall to all the crap from external pressure, internal conflict, economic problems, all that stuff. Eastern Rome, however, is going to be okay. There's going to be guys like Justinian, and there's a few dynasties, and they're not going to have the same gusto as when they were unified, but they're still going to keep rolling. So here's the thing: historically, the Pope needed to be confirmed by the Eastern Roman Emperor because there's no other Roman emperor that exists because the West fell. And so that kind of created, I mean, it didn't create, but it was this representation of this tension of like the West feeling like they want to do their own thing. And now they need like the East's permission to do their own stuff, which they don't really like. And again, we've talked about this before in our like Pope Leo episode. Like ever since, shoot, I wanna say, like, the 4th or 5th century, the Bishop of Rome, the Pope, has made claims of primacy, which is essentially, yeah, all 5 of us, all of the 5 major sees, we're all the head honchos, but I'm like the headest honcho. Like, I'm kinda like the big dog, and you guys
Eh,
are also big dogs, but I'm the big
yeah,
dog.
it's like when churches have the head elder.
Exactly, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Or
So
Roman Rodriguez is the senior
that's
senior
right. See,
pastor.
you're catching on. So, really, and Ryan Reeves, since we're quoting our references, Ryan Reeves, the amazing, beautiful professor who posts a ton of his lectures on YouTube. Thank you, Ryan Reeves. Thank you for listening. He said really well in a lecture.
I
Uh,
I don't think he
he,
listens to us.
I'm not sure. We'll see. Leave a comment, Ryan. He said, the crux of the conflict always comes from this question, and this is really the foundation of the problem. Where does the Bishop of Rome fit within the rest of the church? Does he have to answer to the will of the body, specifically to the will of the other patriarchs from the major sees, or does he have supremacy to do what he wants? And if you ask the patriarch of Constantinople, the patriarch of Jerusalem, the patriarch of Antioch, they're all going to be like, no, we're all homies. We rely on each other. We lead as a unit. And the Pope is like, yeah, we lead as a unit. And then he kind of winks at you. And then it's like, oh, hold on, what are you
Right.
winking for? Yeah, what's
You
going on?
know, I believe papal kind of like Rome's current theology of the office of the Pope was not really ratified until Vatican I in like the 1800s, correct?
Oh wow. No,
Am I
that does
off?
not surprise me.
Is
Yeah.
was Vatican I in the 19th century?
I think so.
This is what's great about.
Just having internet at our fingertips.
Yeah, why is it bringing up? I literally typed in Vatican I date and it goes Vatican II took place.
It's like nobody cares about Vatican One, man. Get out of here.
Dude. Yeah, so if you guys have to know, Vatican I was in the 60s, which everybody knows.
Mhm.
Uh First Vatican. I cannot find it. We're
It's
not
all
gonna
good. It's
belabor
all good.
this. Anyway,
Um,
modern theology on the office of Pope was wasn't didn't come around for a very, very long time officially.
mhm,
And
mhm.
that's something that a lot of critics will say, because apologists for Rome will say, "What are you talking about? Like, you can't make this claim, John Simon, this wink wink, you can't make that claim. There was no doctrine of this." Well, and a task of historical theologians has been to prove, "No, no, no, no. No, no, no. You
Yeah,
all operated as if this guy was like the second coming for a while,
exactly,
and
and that's the
possibly to
thing.
the tune of 1,000 plus years."
And a lot of Protestant historians will say that the biggest issue that Catholics have in interpreting their own history is that they will interpret old things through the perspective of new ideas. So they're basically like, "Oh, we've always thought that way." And it's like, "No, you only think that way if
Yeah.
you assume that these guys were operating out of the same system of how to make decisions." But yeah, no, not
December
not the
8th,
same. December 8th.
1869.
Okay.
I was right.
All right.
I was right.
You did, you got it. You got it. 10 out of 10, man.
Thanks.
Um,
Thanks, bud.
all right. So, like I said, the Pope needs to be confirmed by the Eastern Roman Emperor. And even though it's never really made issues, they've always kind of been like, man, I don't want to wait for these losers to have to tell us. And it's usually not a problem. It's usually not a problem. But here's the
Every
thing.
senior pastor has felt this.
That's right. I
Every
don't
senior
wanna
pastor's
I
felt
gotta I gotta get
that
I gotta
burden.
get this I gotta get the treasurer to sign off on this. Are you kidding me? Are you
I don't wanna
kidding
talk
me?
to the finance committee.
That's right, that's right. Shannon, who runs the office, needs to okay this spending decision.
That's right.
Very upset. And we've talked about on the show, like there have been times, especially when Rome was in hot water, when the church was like, maybe we'll make Constantinople the new Rome. And then Constantinople does kind of become the new center of the faith for a long time, especially with the Eastern church kind of like hunkering down there. So it there's always the conversation about Rome being the head, the what is it? The what's the freaking term? The head of equals, the first among
We're
equals? Yeah.
first among equals.
But that's not a term that was exclusively used for Rome, and the East definitely had some things to say about it. Um, one big problem is going to come up in the year 800 is this guy by the name of Charlemagne is going to pop up, and he's kind of going to bring some moxie back to
No,
the Western
that's a way
Romans.
to say it.
Yeah, he's basically
Brutal
gonna
military conquest. The guy's got personality. What can I say?
But the thing is, he's gonna be crowned, and, like, his, like, emperor reign is going to be ratified, like, crowned by Pope Leo in that time, which the East is like, "Oh, interesting." Because remember, the whole thing was the Pope was reliant on the Eastern emperor because they didn't have a Western emperor. So now it's like, "Oh, why is the it looks like the Pope is trying to establish an emperor in the West again. Okay, that's interesting. Alright, we haven't super talked about that. That's fine." And then later on, couple centuries down the road, so 962, the Battle of Lechfield, the heirs of Charlemagne, the first dude by the name of Otto the First, is going to establish the Ottonian dynasty. And when that happens, he's going to do what the East was afraid was going to happen. He, as the new emperor, is going to confirm the next pope, who is Leo the Ninth. Um, and so basically we're starting to see like, oh, you're kind of infringing on our model here. This isn't supposed to happen this way. Um, Another thing that I thought was just really interesting that I'll just throw out there for a quick second is that when the Arabian Peninsula came up and all these Islamic, militants started to swarm throughout the Mediterranean, one of the problems was the territory that they conquered was northern Africa and then most of the Mediterranean, which meant that during times when the West and East were in conflict, they also had this giant geographical barrier between the two of them, which made it even harder
Mhm.
for them to coordinate with each other because they've basically got their biggest enemy, squashed right between the two of them.
Yeah, so senior pastor hired a youth intern without, the rest of the elders' approval, and then
Mhm.
slowly over the years made that youth intern full-blown staff, and
Exactly.
now the senior pastor's having that guy sign receipts.
Yeah, and now that young pastor, he's on the payroll,
Yeah,
and, the
oh,
other
he's
elders,
full-time.
the other elders didn't approve the new budget.
They
So
they're getting cut out.
there's some problems there.
That's
Um,
right.
One of the issues that'll come up, this is kind of backtracking a little bit, but a really interesting time in Orthodoxy is the iconoclast controversy, which is where the Eastern Church for like 100 years is like, we actually really don't want to do icons. I think they decided to become Presbyterian for 100 years because they were like, we don't like icons. We're afraid they're a violation of the second commandment. We're going to get rid of all images and their use in the liturgy. And then they sent a messenger to the West to be like, hey guys, just so you know, we all agreed to this. We're not doing icons anymore. And the West was like, yeah, you can go jump off a bridge. They're like, we don't care. We're
Don't
not doing
don't
that.
don't touch my pictures of Jesus.
Yeah, that's right. Don't touch my icons. They're my icons.
Yeah.
And then
What
100
was
years
the
later,
there was a council that they clarified all this. Is that what you're getting
yes,
to?
yes,
Sorry.
yes. So, and I didn't realize that the controversy was like literally over a century long. But yes, there was a council. I do not remember the name of it, where they basically were like, actually, icons are probably fine.
Yeah, it's not veneration. What is it? The distinction is like veneration and worship are not the same.
Right, right.
Yes. I
Um,
will say I think I've said this on air and I will say it again to just spread a spirit of ecumenicism. Grandma Babushka waking up in the morning and looking at her little picture of Jesus and crying as she says, "Thank you, Jesus, for everything you do to me or done for me," and
mhm.
then goes about her day serving the Lord is not doing anything wrong.
I agree.
Okay.
I
Okay.
agree. I agree. And here's where like I want to press on this because I think I feel pretty critical of the Catholic Church in this historical area, not largely, uh, but I get it because the Eastern Orthodox Church decided that they wanted to be Orthodox Presbyterians for 100 years and throw all their icons in the trash, and so they're rolling over however many 100 miles to the west, and they're like, "Hey guys, CEO just said we gotta can all of our
Yeah, that's right.
icons,"
You
and
can't
they're
sing
like,
Hillsong no more.
That's right. And they're like, we've been singing Hillsong for 25 years. Like back when they were good. Like,
Yeah.
don't you ever tell us
Don't
what to
touch
do.
my shout to the Lord.
That's right. Talking OG Hillsong, man. Don't take away my Lincoln Brewster. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, that's right.
So they argue reasonably. We're like, I'm glad that you guys made an opinion, but we do not care.
I love
We
that
do
you're
not care.
starting with the one piece of evidence that Rome has to look good in this entire equation.
It's about to turn around pretty fast.
Yeah, so it's Rome 1, East 0.
That's yeah. They got
Eh,
an early lead.
They got it. Yeah, right. Now continue, John
Now
Simon.
continue. Okay, so now we get to kind of the cream of the crop here, which is the filioque. So that sounds like such a silly term. It's literally just so in the Nicene Creed, you may be familiar. The Nicene Creed, one of the most important documents often recited in churches everywhere, even Protestant churches to this day.
Yeah.
It is the fruit of the first ecumenical council where the church came together fresh out of a horrible period of persecution, saying, we will stand together, unified as the people of God to make the hard decisions so that we can stand and pursue Christ together. The Nicene Creed is a big freaking deal. And the Catholics in the West were having a little bit of an issue because there's this line in the Nicene Creed that says, and in the Holy Spirit, the Lord, the giver of life, who proceeds from the Father. And because Arianism is just the cancerous tumor that will never ever die, suddenly the Nicene Creed, which is crazy when you think that the Nicene Creed was literally one of the first documents against Arianism, the Catholics said, well, here's the problem. The picture that we get from the Nicene Creed is that the Holy Spirit comes from the Father and the Son is begotten of the Father. So that kind of makes it seem like the Father is like the big dog of the Godhead, and the other two are like his lessers, which sounds like something that an Arian would say. And so they say, well, I know what we can do. Just grab your magic marker, pull
Oh no.
the Declaration of Independence out of the
Effectively,
Smithsonian,
yes.
and they just scribble the little filioque, which means "and the Son," and
And to
so
son.
they revised the Nicene Creed without asking anybody,
Well, there was
without
one dude, and it was done like super early, like 6th century or something. It was like
it
some tiny
was
little council, and then nobody cared.
yeah
I
they
should say
didn't
nobody cared, but
the East didn't find out until I think the 8th century,
right.
so
And
like
even
hundreds of
then
years later.
it was like, okay, why are you guys doing that?
Exactly.
But
So
it wasn't like officially done in any
right.
capacity.
And I don't think they made any effort because again, they always knew that because they didn't have empirical control like the East did, they weren't going to be like, all right, tell everybody on the East side that they have to change the Nicene Creed. They were just like, no, we're going to change it for us. And they can't tell us that we can't do that.
Do you affirm the filioque clause, John Simon?
Uh, Theologically, I think I get it. Politically, I think it was a dirty move, a low
That's such
blow.
a lame answer.
What?
You say yes or no theologically. Do you affirm the filioque clause?
I mean, like, well, here's the thing. If you're in a Protestant church today and it recites the Nicene Creed, it has the filioque in it.
Not
So yeah,
not all of them.
I think most of them do, don't they?
I think I'd have to figure out. I could go back and watch a bunch of services from random Protestant churches.
You should just look that up. Look up which Protestant churches include the filioque.
Look, Protestant churches are horrible at even figuring out what they affirm. Did you know that the 1925 Baptist Faith and Message was only officially affirmed by, I think it's one organization. And guess what it is?
What is it?
It was Golden Gate Seminary and its
Gosh
founding
dang it,
charter.
man.
Out of the thousands upon thousands of Baptist entities, everyone just adopted it, and they're like, "Okay, yeah." But there
Like,
was
that
no,
sounds
like,
good to us.
there
Yeah.
was no official
That
eh
sounds like you're in favor of the filioque, because that's
no,
exactly what happened.
no, I'm not actually. I had somebody explain it to me once, and I kinda hate him, uh, for doing it. I was like at first, I was, like, defending it. I was like, "Of course, the Holy Spirit is from the Son as well." And I said, if you need me to go lead worship and, you send me somewhere to lead worship, I'm coming from you."
Mhm.
And he goes, "No, you are sent by me. You are from 11th Street Baptist."
Mm.
And I was like, "Oh, no." And then I started reading in scripture, and I was like, "I don't think I can find it. I don't I don't think it's
Yeah.
there."
You know what, listener? This is gonna be your question that I wanna see fill up the comments. What do you think? Does the Son truly
Alright.
proceed from, or sorry, does the Holy Spirit proceed from solely the Father, or the Father and the Son? Give us an answer.
You know what? This
I
is church history for chumps. I'm sorry. It's not church theology for
Hey, this is about as
chumps.
historical as it gets though, man. I get it.
Oh,
So again, we'll getting back into the story. Like, this is, like I said, the Nicene Creed, one of the most significant documents in the history of the church. Like, it's enormously important. And when the East finds out that the West just changed it, again, it's not that you can't change it. It's that you have a procedure to follow. And the procedure is you have to hold a council, and specifically the patriarchs, the heads of the churches, like these archbishops who serve over these recognized areas,
yes.
need to agree by consensus. One guy can't just make that move
Right.
himself.
It's good Baptistic system.
Right, exactly. Sure. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, gosh, you got me into that one. All right. Okay, so now we'll get into kind of the actual breaking point. So now we're in the 11th century, which you'll remember is the same century that the Crusades start. So we're right on the heels of it. So in the
In one corner of the arena,
that's
we
right.
have Ray, I need you to be playing the boxing music.
Yeah, Ray, could we
We have Michael Carularius. Ah. And on the other side, we have Pope Leo the Ninth.
Oh, there we go. I like
Boo.
boo, boo. Here's the thing, man. I can't be that mad at the Catholics because like they're our grandfathers. We're not Eastern Christians. We're absolutely Catholic Christians if we're Protestants.
I'm a
So I don't know.
landmarkist. I'm just kidding.
You're like,
Just kidding.
I identify as Moravian, actually.
Right.
So
I come from John the Baptist.
all right, so in the 1040s, southern Italy, which at the time was Byzantine, will be conquered by the Normans. And the Normans are one of the many European factions that will kind of be lumped into the Crusaders soon. Uh, and they are under the rule of the West. And so what happens is they take over this new territory that was Byzantine, but they do something that was kind of like an unwritten rule, which is you can take over this area, but if there are Byzantine Christians in your Western area, just like if there are Western churches in your Byzantine area, you let them worship the way they're supposed to. You don't make them change stuff. And the Normans did not. The Normans basically kicked the door down of the Byzantine churches and said, all right, stop letting your priests get married, stop using the leavened communion bread, start fasting on these days. And when the East found out about that, they were like super, super peeved about it. They were really
Yeah,
upset.
wouldn't you?
Yeah, no, of course. Yeah, you broke a rule. We have
Yeah.
rules of engagement. We're trying to be, diplomatic here.
Yeah. And they were operating under the rule of Pope Leo.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so this caused the Patriarch of Constantinople at the time, who Taylor just introduced, Michael Carolarius, and he was like, "Oh, they want to play this game? That sounds great." And so he goes into Constantinople, where of course he oversees, and he closes down the Latin churches that had been practicing the Latin rites. And so now there's a bit of a pardon my French, a p-wording contest. There's a lot of ego involved in this. And so there's this other gentleman by the name of Humbert of Silva Candida, and he's the right hand man and the advisor of the Pope. He's the bulldog, he's the feisty guy. And so he's going to oh no, so Michael's gonna write a letter that Humbert will read from Michael, uh, and the letter is basically going to say, "You guys are a bunch of bums. You shouldn't use the filioque. Your stuff in communion is terrible. This stuff sucks. You guys are a bunch of idiots." And so Humbert goes back to Leo the Ninth, who's the Pope, and says, "All right, this guy's pretty. He sounds pretty upset." And so Leo gets upset and says, "All right, you know what? Let's just arrange a meeting. We want you guys to just let's have Humbert, my man, and Michael meet in Constantinople, and hopefully we can just resolve this. This shouldn't be that big of a deal." And when Humbert and the Pope's minions show up in Constantinople, Michael refuses to see them for weeks. He's got a lot of staff meetings. I think he had a sabbatical. He had a couple speaking commitments he had to make.
Right.
Yeah, he's just a busy guy. You can't just show up and expect me to talk.
Right.
Come on. And so they meet and they argue, and the conversation goes nowhere. And on Easter Sunday of 1054, Humbert marches in to Michael's mass that he is doing and hands him a bull of excommunication and basically says, "You guys are a bunch of bums. You're not a real Christian. You're out of the church." And Michael's like, "Oh, okay." So he, about a week later, sends his own papal bull, basically saying,
Yeah.
"Nah, the Rome
No,
is
I'm
out.
excommunicated. No, you're
You're
excommunicated.
executed." That's right.
Yes.
Yeah. So
And then
I
Leo writes his letter
that's right. Yep,
where
exactly.
I've got some quotes from it if you guys
Please.
are interested. So the source is Documents of the Christian Church, Oxford University Press, 1999.
I like it. I like it.
So here's some of it. This is Leo writing to Carolarius. And keep in mind, and I don't know if this is just Catholic whitewashing, but they do think there's a chance that this letter is not actually the one that was sent because it is a little spicy. So they're
Oh.
saying this might have been the first draft, and then his anger translator came through, is what some might suggest.
Sure.
But this is what we have. So you are said to have publicly condemned the Apostolic and Latin Church without either a hearing or a conviction. And the chief reason for this condemnation, which displays an unexampled presumption and an unbelievable effrontery, is that the Latin Church dares to celebrate the commemoration of the Lord's Passion with unleavened bread. What an unguarded accusation is this of yours? What an evil piece of arrogance. You place your mouth in heaven while your tongue, going through the world, strives with human arguments and conjectures to undermine and subvert the ancient faith. Then he goes on. In prejudging the case of the highest see, the see on which no judgment may be passed by any man, you have received the anathema from all the fathers of all the venerable councils. And then the final little thing. As a hinge, remaining unmoved, opens and shuts a door, so Peter and his successors have an unfettered jurisdiction over the whole church, since no one ought to interfere with their position because the highest see is judged by none. That's who we're working with. That's, of course,
Gosh,
Michael's
dude.
like, I hate you.
Here's the thing. I don't side with Leo in this conflict, but that's the bars in that,
As a hinge
of
remaining
a door,
unmoved.
like the papal see answers to no one.
Right.
Hello. It's just,
Yeah.
oh man, he
Yeah.
dropped a bomb on him there. It's so. But I think one of the craziest things is, like, even as this unfolded, I don't think anyone, either the patriarch or the pope, would have thought that this was a definitive thing. They did not think that 1,000 years later, we're essentially still in the same boat where they're not in communion with one another, because there are going to be several attempts to kind of, like, patch things together over the centuries. None of them are gonna work. There's gonna be times when they're gonna gather, like, a little brain trust of, Eastern and Western theologians to kinda work things out and come to a compromise. It never really works. And, uh, I think what's interesting is, like, when we find ourselves getting to the Crusades, this is why the call from Alexios the First, who's the Byzantine emperor, to Pope Urban II was such a big deal, because it's kinda like they're like, "Hey, we're not really talking right now. I know we just broke up, but, I was wondering if your brother could still, I know he's an HVAC guy. I was wondering if he could still work on my AC and hopefully still cut me that family discount." Like, they're trying to feel out where they're gonna land in the breakup. And I think one of the reasons why I pushed back on Tommy a little bit last week was because, uh the Crusades are actually gonna do way more damage to the relationship between the East and the West than any type of, like, like, actual reparation or reconciliation to their relationship. There's a lot of kind of political, backstabbing that's gonna happen. There's a lot of dishonesty between leaders and false promises, but at the end of the day, they just don't really like each other.
Right.
And when we get to the 4th Crusade, it's gonna be like Constantinople's gonna be sacked by the Crusaders,
Right.
and, it's
And
it's
I'll
it's
give
awful.
the West a little bit of a bone. I mean, I haven't researched the whole event specifically, but there's the Latin massacre. So where the Easterners kill a bunch of Westerners.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So it's kind of brutal on both sides, and I think it's really simple to be like, look, the evil Muslims were attacking the peaceful, helpless Christians of the East, and they called
Right.
upon their long lost brother for reconciliation to come save them. That sounds nice, but that's
That's a
not
great
what
story. Yeah.
that
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
a
yeah.
you're right, it's a great story.
Mhm.
There's a clean bad guy,
Right.
The Seljuks, there's
Mhm.
reconciliation, familial bonding,
Yeah.
some, character progression. That's not what happened.
Yeah, one of my favorite, I mean, we're obviously getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, but one of my favorite, like, mental images that I got reading through kind of the First Crusade was just Alexios, the emperor. He's really trying to be, like, chummy with the Crusaders, because he's kind of envisioning that they're gonna be his mercenaries and that they're gonna get Jerusalem, not just to save the helpless Christians, but he wants Jerusalem back under Byzantine control. And so he's like, "Oh, these guys are gonna do my dirty work for me, and then they're gonna give me Jerusalem back," which would be awesome.
They'll be
And
my Seljuks.
yeah, that's right. But they're not gonna do that. They're gonna establish their own rule. They're not gonna hand the city back to the Byzantines. But also, like, there's just all these, like, kinda images of the Crusaders coming through a Byzantine area, and all the Byzantines are like, "Oh gosh, here they are again. They're not showering. Okay, yep, yeah, oh, alright, yep. Yeah, tell the shopkeepers to just put up with them. Yeah, no, I know the hotel room's a mess. I understand. It's
Dude,
that's just kinda how
it's
they
true.
are." Like, they just do not vibe
The
with them at
West
all.
wasn't sending their best.
They weren't. Um, the one last little footnote I guess we'll share, 'cause we've given a lot of Orthodox history here, is, do you know what will take over as the new center of Constantinople after the East falls to, more and more Islamic crusade, or,
Oh,
conquest?
I don't know if I know this. Wait, wait, wait. So what you're saying is what becomes the new Constantinople?
Yeah,
Oh. I don't know. I don't know.
it's Moscow.
Oh, it goes up
Yeah.
north. That makes
That's right.
sense.
Yeah,
That
so
makes
in the
sense.
centuries after, so Constantinople's gonna get, its teeth kicked in by Crusaders a couple hundred years after the First Crusade. The Seljuks who are still around, are gonna sack it after they rebuild, and it's gonna be awful for a long time. And the Orthodox world, which, used to really thrive in Asia Minor, in the Mediterranean, in parts of the Arabian Peninsula, uh, in whatever I just said, is gonna lose a lot of headway. And so, but one thing that's gonna be really huge, which I will probably dedicate a full episode to, is that Orthodoxy is gonna find a second wind when Boris, the king of the Bulgarians, and then later on the crown prince of Kiev, a guy by the name of Vladimir, would convert to Orthodoxy and essentially bring Orthodoxy way up north. And they'd bring with it their iconographies and their liturgies and their rites and their monastic practices. And then all of a sudden, this is where it gets a very distinctly Russian influence. So, yeah. And then, fun fact, in 2004, this is a true story, Pope John Paul II met with Bartholomew I, Patriarch of Constantinople, where they had a conversation, recited the Nicene Creed together, and the Pope did not say the Filioque.
Wow.
I don't
Wow,
know.
John Paul.
I don't know. Yeah.
Keep it up. I'm looking
So,
at a map trying to figure out if the Muslims just like got somewhere around, I don't know, like that Kazakhstan kind of like latitude, right?
mhm.
And was like, why does anyone want this? And just stopped moving north. And that's why the Orthodox capital was just like safe up in Moscow.
That is a fantastic question, dude. Yeah, because they definitely kind of like, yeah, this is far enough.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like yeah. Like, it's
I'm
just
gonna ask that. This is all right. This is us being fully transparent. I'm gonna ask Google just directly. Why did the Muslims not invade Russia? All right, it's gonna be like, absolutely, John. It's a complex issue.
Vatican
Okay.
too.
Vatican II took place in 1960. Was a pivotal change. It's like, all right, thanks, freaking.
What
All
does it
right.
say?
It says that they did quote unquote invade and rule parts of what is now Russia for centuries. But it didn't turn all of Russia into a permanent Islamic state, mostly because of the Mongols, it sounds like. Or no,
Yeah.
hold on.
So
The Mongols conquered most of Russia in the 13th century, and then their leaders converted to Islam. This is all AI, guys, so you don't have to take this seriously. Um, and then, I guess, but then Ivan the Terrible, which full circle back to what we started the
oh
episode with,
my gosh.
he re-centralized the Russian state and conquered the Golden Horde Mongols, or descendants of the Mongols, in the mid 16th century. And I think he's been the head honcho since then. Like,
I'm
I
just
think
trying to
they never lost after that.
I'm just trying to figure out that little chunk of land between the Black Sea and the Caspian Sea that would be like the Muslim straight shot to Moscow. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if that is like a
Oh,
no
that is
man's
only
land.
like a tiny little pinch of land. That is a good point.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, dude. Geography in like global warfare, such an interesting thing.
Well, remember it's literally the mountains that stopped Ethiopia,
That's
the
exactly
Ethiopian church
right.
from falling.
Yeah. If you
So
ever see a little territory that stayed independent in the midst of a gigantic empire, you usually have to ask yourself, I wonder what the terrain is like over there.
that's right.
Yeah. Oh, man.
That's good. Well, good job, John.
Thanks, big dog. Yeah, this was a fun
We,
one. Yeah, I've been wanting to do this episode for a long time, so I'm glad we got to do it.
uh-huh.
Sad that Thomas wasn't here, but unfortunately, he also is the victim of a schism right now.
What?
That's not true. I don't know where I was going with that, but yeah.
Making it sound like he's getting divorced.
No, no, that does sound
There's no
terrible.
schism. He had to write a sermon.
Yeah, he's been a very busy guy lately. That's all. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh man.
Yes. Well, hey, thank you to our listeners. Big fans of you guys
Yeah,
being fans of
absolutely.
us.
Big
So
fans, yeah.
big
We
fans of
appreciate you
you.
guys. We light up whenever you guys, share us or, hit us up on our socials. It just makes our whole week. We literally never thought we'd be at a point to where we'd have people just listening to our stuff, so that's really exciting. So,
It's very cool.
thank you guys so much for listening. We love you bunches, and we'll see you next week.
Bye bye.
See ya.